So this is going to be the most unsexy video I've ever done. So let's just cut to the chase. We're going to be talking about strategy and setting the course for your career. Again, I'm not even going to optimize this YouTube video because I know that the YouTube algorithms will not recommend it. And if you're watching this video, chances are is because you're already subscribed to my channel. So let's just cut straight to the chase. Let's get into it. I'm going to talk about some of the things that you need to be thinking about when you're setting your strategy, when you're thinking about your strategic priorities. So in my last video, we talked about goal setting and some strategic priorities a little bit there, but today we're going to focus primarily on this. So when I say strategic priorities, we're talking about the things that help guide you, the compass that helps guide you in your writing career. How do you set those goals? How do you know what they are? And what are the goals that you should even be thinking about setting? Tip number one is to develop your mission and your vision statement. Now, all businesses outside of writing do this. And I personally found that this was a little strange to do as a writer because it doesn't feel like we should have a business statement, right? I mean, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But if you think about it, it actually does. So your mission statement is what you want to accomplish with your writing. Your vision statement is what will happen when you do. So let's just keep this super simple, right? Let's say that you're a science fiction writer and that's all you do. You just write science fiction. I don't think you need to develop huge business plans or anything like that for this. It's just a simple strategic priority. So let's say you write science fiction and you write science fiction about artificial intelligence. Your mission statement would be that you want to write science fiction books about artificial intelligence to show readers the intricacies or the problems of artificial intelligence. Your vision statement is that when readers read your book, they will see the horrors and the wonders of AI, and that will cause them to think about AI differently. So when they are making decisions in their own lives, they're making decisions based on some of the things that you've taught them, right? That is super simple, super simple. It doesn't have to be complicated, right? So your mission statement is what you want to accomplish, and your vision statement is what will happen when you do. The next thing I want you to think about when you're thinking about strategic priorities is 4 focus areas, right? People, profit, expenses, and growth. These are the things that will drive virtually every decision that you make as a writer, as a business person, and everything in between, right? So let's talk about each of these. So when you're thinking about people, people are critical and they're fundamental to any writer's career. And when I talk about people, who am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about readers primarily, but other authors are also an important part in any writer's career because you need the support of other authors in order to reach some level of success, right? So when you're thinking about people, some of the things that I want you to be thinking about when you're thinking about strategy and what it is that you're going to do and how you're going to serve and carry out your mission statement is how are you serving your readers? Now, if all you write is fiction, I think this is very simple, and that is you're gonna write books to serve them, and you're gonna write books on a consistent basis so that people always know when your next book is coming out. You're gonna make it easy to join your mailing list. You're gonna make it easy for them by providing a reading order on your book page. All these sorts of things. Now, that's super simple for fiction. For nonfiction, it's a little bit more, right? You need to be thinking about how you're going to add value to your readers' lives. So how are you going to do that through your books, but also how are you going to do that through complementary content like videos? You're going to have courses. Are you going to do white papers? Do you derive a lot of your income from speaking? These are things that you need to be thinking about in terms of how you can add value and influence your readers' lives. So let me give you an example for myself. So for my fiction, you guys know that I write a lot of books and I have a number of different pen names. And that's great for me because it allows me to pursue my dream and I just love doing that. But it creates a problem for readers because for my fiction, when readers come across Michael Laurent for the first time, it's kind of like, well, where do I start? This guy's written science fiction, he's written fantasy, and I've written different subgenres in each of those. And so from a strategic perspective, one of the questions that I'm always asking is, am I creating clear choices for my readers? So when someone comes to a Michael Laurent page on my website for the first time, how do they know what book to buy? And am I giving them clear choices? So I've done a number of things on my website to try to make it a little bit easier to help get the right reader to the right book at the right time. I implemented a tool called Book Wizard that basically asks readers a series of questions and then it spits out a book recommendation. That's one of the ways that I address this, but it's a constant problem that I'm going to have. With my Author Level Up books, for example, though, I need to make sure that I'm getting the right books in front of you guys and that I'm writing the right books that are going to add value to your lives, right? And with fiction, it's totally different, but I have to be more strategic with my nonfiction about the books that I choose to write because I want to make sure that when you guys stumble across my videos for the first time and when you stumble across my book portfolio for the first time, within 5 seconds, I want you to be able to see the value that I can provide. In thinking about people, it's thinking about the end-to-end process, right? When someone is buying a book to the point where they finish a book, to the point where they interact with you as an author, how do you want to treat your readers? But the people component is also interacting with people, right? How do you interact with your fans? Do you want to interact with your fans? What is the method that is the best way for you to interact with your fans that gives your fans what they want, but that also doesn't burn you out? These are all things that you have to think about when you're thinking of this first component, which is people. Now, there's also expenses. And so a lot of people think about expenses with money, but I did a video on time management a few weeks back, and I want you to think about expenses in terms of time as well, because time is money. So I'm gonna keep this super simple. When you do things that you are meant to do and that are efficient, that serve your strategic priorities, your profits will increase. When you do things that are inefficient and do not serve your strategic priorities, assuming you've got the right strategic priorities, your profits will decrease. This is why I talk all the time about mastering your writing app. This is why I recommend automation, if you can find ways to do that in your writing career, and if you can afford it, finding ways to outsource, finding ways and services that will help you be more efficient. Because here's the thing, and it's super important, you want to make sure that you are doing the right things at the right time as efficiently as possible. Let me say that again, that you're doing the right things at the right time as efficiently as possible. And the things that you can't do or the things that you've delegated, you want to make sure that you're getting the right work to the right people at the right time so that they can do their best work, which will impact your bottom line. So what are the things that a writer should be doing when we talk about right things at the right time? Well, 9 times out of 10, you should be creating content. That is how you make your living. So you need to be writing or creating content 9 times out of 10. It's the other 1 times out of 10. What are you going to do? Are you going to do marketing? Are you going to do networking? And so that's where the time management piece comes in so that you can structure your day and your weeks so that this is not an issue for you and that you're doing those correct things at the right time that serve your strategic priorities. And of course, I'd be remiss not to talk about money, right? I mean, expenses and money, and that is critically important, don't get me wrong. And my own personal strategy has been to spend money whenever it stimulates growth. That's just my own personal view on it. But I think that from a broader perspective, you want to make sure that you're only spending money on the things that you need in your writing career, especially if you're a part-time writer, and that you're spending money on things that are going to make you money, and that you're cutting your expenses while also trying to do as much as you can with less. I think that's important, especially, as I record this, we just don't know what the economy is going to do. And so you just want to make sure that you keep your expenses as tight as possible, that you're putting money into savings, right, for your writing, and that you're doing as much as you can to keep on to every dollar as you make as a writer. That's also important. So people, profit, expenses, and growth. So let's talk about profit. So profit is the money that you have left over once you've paid your expenses, right? Super simple. How are you going to reinvest that profit back into your business, right? And for some of you, maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you're going to use your profit to pay the bills. I don't know what that looks like for you, but for most of you, I imagine that if you're making a decent amount of money, you're going to want to be putting that back into the business because there's always something that you can be investing in, whether that be a new website, whether that be a new writing app, whether that be new equipment, so that you can write more efficiently. It's a never-ending cycle. And so you want to pay some attention and pay some mind to what you want to do with the profits that you make from your writing. And lastly, we've got the growth component. It's new marketing techniques is one way to do it, but primarily with growth, you're thinking about content, right? And products that you're going to create. So what books are you going to write? What kind of content are you going to put on your social media channel? If you have a YouTube channel, what kind of videos are you going to create that are going to bring people into your gravitational field? And then also, how are you going to maximize the exposure with the readers that you already have? So if you have a mailing list of 500 people, how are you going to keep them engaged, right? So that when your next book comes out, they're going to be more likely to buy it, and you're not going to have a list that goes cold. For all my multi-genre writers out there, if you write in multiple genres, what are the genres that have made you the most money? And then what are the genres that you've enjoyed writing the most? Is the answer the same for both of those? If that's true, then might you consider writing more in that genre as a way to make more money? How are your Amazon ads doing? How are your Facebook ads doing? Are there things that you need to tweak? Right? How are your existing books doing? Are there things that you need to do to your book descriptions? Is there any kind of reformatting that you need to do? Anything that you need to do to help continue to stimulate readers and stimulate that growth are things that you want to be thinking about on a daily basis. So we talked about people, profit, expenses, and growth. I know that was the longest tip number 2 ever, but it is super important. And I actually did this analysis on my own business in I think it was my it's either on 2018 or 2019 goals. I'll find it and link to it, but click on the YouTube card above my head or the link in the video description if this interests you and you want to find out more about it. Now, for me personally, I've taken the path of slow and steady growth. I don't know that that's the path for everyone though, but for me, I found that momentum is something that I've grown slowly over time, but I think that the more books that I write and the more content that I create, while kind of no one knows my name, while I don't really have a whole lot of subscribers and things like that, will grow over time. And that's the kind of success that eventually becomes an overnight success story, right? And so I'm just quietly creating all these videos, quietly creating all these books, quietly creating all this content, so that one day, when I do create something that is a little bit bigger than what I have now, I'll have a lot of things for future people to dig into, right? And for those of you who are along for the ride, it's awesome because you're getting all this content live and in the moment. So when you think about people, profit, expenses, and growth, that gives you a framework to start thinking about some of those strategic priorities, right? So see what I mean when I told you this was going to be an unsexy video? Tip number 3 is just to take some time to think about this information, right? So I've thrown a lot at you. Take some time, spend an afternoon in a coffee shop, and just kind of hammer out what it is that you want to do. It doesn't have to be perfect, but by all means, if you take some time in a coffee shop, please do not spend 4 hours on your mission statement or your vision statement. You would completely miss the point, right? I would spend the majority of your time thinking about people, profit, expenses, and growth. Your plans are going to change over time, so schedule some time to do this, 3 or 4 times a year, just to check in with yourself and make sure that you're still on the right path. And it's okay for your goals to change over time, as you slowly start to refine this. And I can certainly tell you that, some of my goals aren't the same this year as they were last year, right? And that's totally fine. Just remember that you want to keep those strategic priorities in view, and that will help guide you and help with your gut decisions when you're making those decisions, because you'll at least know that you're making them for the right reasons. So with that, if you have not watched the rest of my organization video series, be sure to watch the rest of those videos and be sure to subscribe, although I know you're already subscribed because like I said, this is the most unsexy video I've ever done. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video.